Welcome to the UK Planner Podcast. I'm Ash.
And I'm Ari.
This is your unofficial guide to the UK planner scene, with not much knowledge,
but plenty of opinions.
with plenty of special guests.
Or sometimes just the two of us.
Either way,
We hope you enjoy.
hi, I'm Ash, the host of the UK Planner Podcast. And next to me is our part-time co-host, full-time, my favourite participant in a planner meet, Ari.
Hey,
How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm also a bit drained, though, socially, just because of where we've just come from, which was a planner meet. It's the first one we've ever been to, which wasn't like a big planner event. It was just 12 of us in a cafe in London, other planners. It was great. It was a really lovely situation. But I think because planners are generally quite introverted, it drains the social battery a lot.
It was really good, and I'm really glad that we went. I think that I'll probably take a little bit of time to decompress, probably a little bit of solo time, or at least non-outing time.
Mm.
But I am looking forward to doing it again, and I do think that folks are talking about trying to make it a monthly thing where we just meet up to plan somewhere.
And that would be really nice, yeah, because for me personally, unless I'm going to a big planner event, I really don't see other planners apart from you. Can't escape you. You're like in my house. It's crazy. But having that kind of touching base with people is always really nice. Like, I think that people were really open and collaborative when we went. Like, people were bringing stuff to kind of put in the middle to have like a makeshift kind of swaps pile. People were like showing people their planners. I mean, there was a few planners that I hadn't even heard of, that it was kind of really nice to kind of really feel the paper, see how someone had kind of physically used it. I really like having that collaboration of trying people's washi, trying stamps. I mean, you even gave away some of your stamps that you had brought.
Yeah, I did. So I have some stamps because I'd been using stamps for a really long time. And when I was a broke college kid, I didn't have money for fancy stickers or Etsy shops and things like that, which I'm very grateful that I have a little bit of leeway now where I can get those things. And I still use stamps quite a bit, but I had some sets that I just haven't touched in a long time. They're still nice. They're from Michael's in the US, and I knew that there would be some folks who might be interested in trying them out. And I ended up having one person who really wanted some of the sets, so they went to a good home where they're going to be used way more than they're currently used. So I'm hoping, if you're listening, that you're enjoying them. And little meetups like that are a really nice opportunity to get to see new things or try new things and maybe rehome things that you haven't used in a while but are still in good shape.
Yeah, that is actually a really nice element, because often when we go to the bigger events and, there is like 200 or more of you, you don't really end up really seeing where your stuff goes. While with this, because we were all around this table, you could kind of see where that went, or you could kind of talk to someone and go, oh yeah, no, this is missing from it, or oh yeah, this is from this collection, this is from this collection. You could really kind of know where your stuff was going, which was like such a different experience for me. Like, for me, it was more kind of almost like kind of sending your child off to war. You were like, well, good luck, hope you do well, make someone proud. I just, not sending it to war, that's a really bad expression.
That got a little weird. I'm gonna be honest. That got a little weird.
I'm always a little weird, Ari. I mean, you knew what you signed up for. But as emotionally draining as it is to kind of talk to people and meet new people and kind of learn their faces and remember who's who, it was also really nice to kind of meet new people that you hadn't met before.
Absolutely. And there are so many different types of journalers, planners, memory keepers, whatever term you want to use.
There were people who were really into fountain pens, and I know nothing about the fountain pen world.
With the folks that brought their fountain pens, there were some amazing pens there. Ones that I wouldn't get because I'd be too afraid of damaging it. And I outright told them, like, I've never tried a fountain pen because I'm terrified of just bending the tip because I am such a heavy-handed writer.
Mm-hmm.
But there was someone who, they're really, really sweet, who let me try out a couple of her tips. Obviously, she didn't have me try out her fine nib tips. Absolutely fine. Totally understandable. But she did freely hand me over this really fancy looking pen to try out, including one that I've been looking at for a while, but just haven't actually gotten. Like, there were folks talking about how there are some pens that get made and each swirl of the pen, because of the way that it's created, is different. So no pen is the same, even if it's coming from the same collection.
I mean, that's incredible, isn't it? Like, how one-off that is. Because you really get to know your stuff, you really get to know every kind of groove and pattern on your pens and on certain things. To imagine that, like, if I bought another one, it wouldn't match completely blows my mind.
We are all enablers.
Serious enablers.
There were things that I brought with me that someone was like, "Ooh, where's that from? When'd you get that?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you just go to this shop, you can shop here. This shop ships from Hong Kong to the UK. As welcome as you would be to come if you're on a no spend. I don't know if a meetup is the right place for you, only because you will get convinced to go shopping again. Or if you had a washi collection and you say, "Oh, I really like this." 99.9% of the time, that person's gonna say, "Oh, I got it from this shop. Here's where it is. It's still on sale. Hey, they still have some stock. Oh, they restock on this date." Your no spend will never survive.
It wouldn't. There were so many generous people who were like, "Oh, you like this washi? Here, let me, like, give you a sample of it. Oh, you like these stickers? Yeah, let me cut you off, some of my pet tape." Like, I'm gonna be honest, I felt like I got a little mini goodie bag. There was even someone who came and gave everyone these mini little pouches with some washi and stickers in them, which I couldn't believe. I was so, like, blown away. And, like, it was nice stuff. I got, like, a Simply Gilded washi, like a whole roll, unopened from this girl, and she was just, like, handing them out like a little fairy godmother, and I was like, "Who are you? You're amazing."
Absolutely. And I will say that I feel like I didn't bring enough planner stuff with me. Like, because I'd never been to one of these before, ever. So I didn't really know what to bring with me. Some people outright told us, "I just threw everything into a bag. I don't know what's here with me, but it's here." And other folks had specifically brought things with intentions. I had brought stamps to share
Mhm, mhm.
and also to give away, because some of them I don't use anymore and some of them I know that they're hard to get in the UK, so I brought them with me. But other than that, I really only brought my go-to pen and my planners. I didn't really bring other embellishments or washi and things as much. And honestly, I feel like I didn't have enough stuff with me, which is usually the opposite, because usually I have way too much of my planner stuff and I don't end up using it whenever we go on trips or things.
Honestly, it felt like the opposite of when I go to a big planner convention, where I always bring my planner and I never use it. Apart from people signing it, doesn't get used. This was the complete opposite, where there was one person who'd forgotten their planner, or, like, I think they just didn't bring it because they didn't think they needed it, and was, like, seriously regretting it because we were all just sat there planning. It was the first time I ever went to a planner thing where we were all planning. It was amazing, and it was just so lovely. But also, what was great was that I actually started a new hobby thanks to going to this group. So there was one girl who was talking about pen pals, and it's something that, like, I used to do, but I had a bad experience of it. So I kind of let that kind of hobby go. But then she was talking about it, and we kind of had a good chat. And I actually was like, "Oh, okay. You know what? I'm going to look into it again." And it's one of those hobbies where I just did not realize how much people have upped their game. Like, I went from not wanting to do it because of having, and I've had this happen to me twice, where we'll send letters back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then eventually they'll be like, "Oh, can you send me some, like, British chocolate, or can you send me this, or can you send me that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, all right." So I do. I wouldn't mind if, like, they just sent me a letter back and there was nothing for me. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about them completely just at that point is the point where they decide no more writing to me, you know? But yeah, like I said, I feel like people have really upped their game. Like, I noticed around the pandemic a lot of, like, YouTube videos of people pen paling, and their pen paling is amazing. Like, they have, like, handcrafted, not just, like, decorating the paper for the letters, but the envelopes and, like, these, like, flip books which held, like, the letter and then some stickers and some washi, and it's just, like, absolutely incredible. And I'm just like, "How on earth can I keep up with this?" Because, like, it's not that I think that people are expecting it, but then at the same time, when I start pen paling with someone, I'm really worried that they're almost looking for that level, or, like, if they are at that level and they're like, "Oh, no, I don't mind, you can just write me, like, a normal letter and put it in a normal envelope." I almost feel like I'm kind of, like, cheating them out of, like, the time they could be writing to someone who will kind of be able to kind of give them the same kind of quality back. Does that make sense?
It does. I do think that you're judging yourself a little before you even get into the game.
Yeah.
Ultimately, pen pals, at least from my understanding of them, is to be sending letters to someone that you don't know to learn more about something. If it's a person and building a friendship that way, if it's a country, if it's a culture, whatever the case may be. So I think, yeah, there's definitely going to be some people who are going to want to go out of their way and have the means to do so.
Mhm.
There's also going to be some people who are just going to give you something that's a piece of paper in an envelope and that's it. And I think that's okay. You kind of build it up too, and you build kind of expectations with each other. Like, if you're both people who are really crafty, then you might be a little bit more quote unquote extra
Mhm.
in your letters versus if you're both, I don't know, chronically ill. Maybe you don't have the energy to be extra in every letter. Maybe sometimes you are and sometimes you aren't.
And also it's a thing of cost. Like, I've noticed kind of on Instagram especially, there'll be people who are, like, literally giving away, like, items, like, and I'm talking about, like, die cuts and stuff, and, like, some of it I get, like, it could be, like, almost like a version of the sort of sale where they're like, "Oh, yeah, I bought this, but actually I don't want it," or, "I was given this, but actually don't want it." But, like, I'm gonna be honest, I there's certain items I will never put in a swaps table because for me, I don't really have the luxury of just being like, "Oh, I don't want this beautiful thing anymore," you know? Like, part of it, I think, is people being genuinely kind and being like, "I want this and I need this, but at the same time, I know this person will like it more." And it's not that I don't wanna be that level of kind, but at the same time, I've kind of come from a situation where when I started planning, I really had nothing, and that wasn't because there wasn't stuff out there was stuff out there, but for me, spending, like, £12 on a planner kit or spending money on die cuts and things just wasn't possible, you know? Like you said, at one point you were a broke college kid and you got stamps because you could reuse them every single time, you know? I think also I have to be really careful because I'm one of those people where, for me, once they start giving my stuff away, I'll be honest, if I like someone, I'll just give them everything. I'm too nice. And then I'll turn around one day and realize, oh shit, I've given away all my nice stuff. I have nothing left. You know?
Yeah. I think it's hard too because people come from different socioeconomic backgrounds. Like,
Mhm.
someone who's come from not having a whole awful lot to being able to afford to get the nicer things, like these things that are one-time use only. I think
Mhm.
that is where I see a very big distinct line is the things that are one-time use versus the things that are long-term use.
Mhm.
Like, when I first started planning, I was just using highlighters and pencils that I had from school. And
Mhm.
my mother would ask why I was running out of pencils and highlighters so quickly. Um, but then when I got a little older and I had a little bit of pocket money, I got myself some stamps because I knew I could keep reusing those again and again and again. Now, sometimes I do have the funds where I can go and to someone's sale and shop and that, and sometimes I don't. So I think that it's okay to not always be sure and kind of slowly figure out expectations as you go. Like, the first letter doesn't have to have 5 Simply Gilded washes in it.
Yeah. I don't know, like, I think that maybe I'm having a very negative opinion of people, and a lot of people are just writing to write. And like the thing is, most people who pen pal aren't making social media content out of making pen pal letters. But then I kind of worry that people will kind of see that kind of social media, sign up to a pen pal website, and have that expectation.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of really good things about social media, but there also are some drawbacks. Like, not every single spread looks as nice as the spreads that we see on social media. Like,
Mhm.
not to say that there aren't people out there who just have brilliant looking spreads all the time.
Mhm.
Absolutely, there are. However, realistically, not every spread is the perfect Instagram spread.
Yeah.
There are a lot of mistakes. There are a lot of smudged pages and bleed through ink and all of the normal things. So I think in that sense, yes, there are going to be Instagram worthy letters that might just look absolutely perfect and you want to put them there. And then there might be some that just aren't because you're human and you make a mistake.
Yeah.
I would also say that, like, any hobby, if it becomes stressful, stops being a hobby and starts
Yeah.
being a task.
I never want writing to people to ever be something I'm dreading. Like, I want it to be a very joyful thing. But, you know, even planning can sometimes feel like a task. And it's okay to then skip a week or skip a day or whatever. We need to stop holding ourselves to these really super high standards. But there you go. Anyway, I'm really glad that everyone could join us for this episode.
Yes, thank you so much for coming and listening to the episode. Thank you so much for coming back, even though we took a little bit of a break. We really appreciate you being here, whether this is your first episode with us or if you're coming back from a different one. We are so glad you're here and we hope we have you in the next one.
Look after yourselves. I hope that your washi is straight and your stickers go exactly where you want to place them. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye. Just kidding. Hello again. Welcome to the After Show with Ari, the first after show segment with me, your full time after show host. So let's see, what do we want to talk about today? Okay, so one of the topics that we talked about today was having the planner meetup that we had in London. So much fun. Really glad we went. I have a lot of thoughts around planner meetups and the logistics just because when you're doing one, it really is kind of throwing an idea out in the ether and seeing A, what catches, and B, who actually wants to come. Because let's be honest with ourselves, at least for me, I know I personally will say, absolutely, I'm interested in that. I want to do that on a day where I'm feeling super social, my battery is high, I'm ready to go and meet people and be social and do all the things. And then a week or two or month later, social me will have agreed to go do the thing. And tired, non social me will look at the event and think, do I really want to go though? So it can be really hard to try and plan a meetup because you have to allow time for people to plan and make the time and make the journey, however long that's going to be. And at the same time, people who say yes 2 weeks ago, that day might not be able to say yes anymore. Also, thinking about locations, it can be really hard because there's a wide range of incomes, like we talked about in the episode. People are coming with different amounts of resources. So, how do you choose a place that is accessible to a lot of folks, but also will provide everything you need? A lot of table space, seating, time, possibly food and drink, depending on the timing of the day or how long you all plan on staying there, can be really difficult. And as we've talked about in a previous episode, third spaces are really hard to find nowadays. And if you didn't hear that episode, I do recommend going back to it. But just a quick what a third space is. They're these spaces that aren't home and they aren't work, but they're places that people can go to convene, spend time together, and not necessarily have to pay a ton of money to exist in that space. And if we're being honest, society does not really provide those spaces anymore. There are some, absolutely. I would highly recommend the British Library for a place to go for quiet meetups. But when it comes to people being able to commune and talk to each other and maybe be a little bit louder, maybe a little bit more noisy, it's really hard to find a space that doesn't require an entry fee or at least a purchasing requirement. Even the place that we went for the London meetup that we did earlier in June, we still had to buy something. And granted, I don't think every single person that came bought something, but a good portion of us did. And there were signs all over the space saying, this is for customers only. You only have 2 hours to be here. And so that makes it really difficult because, of course, you want to spend time together. You want to have a space where you can all plan and journal and hang out and look at new things and try out new pens and possibly add to your wish list, but doing that in a space that is accessible to as many folks as possible. I think that the place that we ended up going was really nice because there was a really long table where a lot of us could fit, and it was on the more expensive side when it comes to food and drink, just because it is a central London location. You kind of expect that to be fairly expensive, but we all ended up having a really nice time, and I'm looking forward to meeting up again. Okay, well, I won't keep you too much longer. I do really appreciate you sticking around for Ari's after show and visiting my little corner of the podcast in our little corner of the internet, which I get to say in this part because this is my part of the show. So, lastly, we are really excited for our first time going to Planner Fest, Stationery Fest, and Journal Fest. And if you're going, or if you have anything you'd like to share about it, please do send us any comments, voice clips, or anything else you would like to include in the podcast to our email, which will be linked down below. Thank you so much. This is the actual farewell. Hope to have you in the next episode. Bye bye.